Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa min tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. Welcome to this week's class, Q&A on Islamic Creed. Alhamdulillah. Last week we canceled because I had some stuff I had to take care of. But the week before we had the quiz, so I emailed you the results of the quiz. You get it? Yeah, I can't hear you. Yeah, I can't hear you. No, I still
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
I said, did you get
Yeah,
the results
I
of the
got the
quiz?
email. Yes, I did.
What do you think?
Oh, it was good. I mean,
Okay.
it was a great quiz, great test.
You got like a C. You got like a C minus.
I know. I was a little upset about my grade. I ain't gonna hold you.
No,
But alhamdulillah, it was good. It was a good study. I liked it.
Okay.
Good test.
All right. I got one person that's present today, and nobody else signed in, so it looked like it'd be me and you. I did mention, and we're streaming on Facebook Live. Assalamu alaikum to our Facebook people who are joining live. For those people joining on Facebook, we're kind of hold on a second. Hold on. Yeah, so for our people joining Facebook Live, we're kind of a few weeks into this class. So, and the course of the class is that we'll be doing some review and then we'll continue because, besides me sometimes canceling because of something coming up and then, other things happening, I don't want to just, I don't want to, for my students that show up every week, I don't want to hold them up. So we're just going to continue. So last week we had a quiz on what we covered so far. We're covering a book that's called The Jewel of the Theologians in respect to the Islamic Creed. Anybody on Facebook who wants to, get the book as a PDF, you can inbox us on the Facebook page, inshallah, and we'll make sure you get a copy. And so the book is in the question and answer form. It's 102 questions that cover what is necessary to know about the Islamic Creed. And actually, we're on question number 24 today is what we're covering. But we want to do a review. I have one of my dedicated students here, Brother Hanif. And Hanif he might have to answer a couple questions. They listening to you, bro. So you won't answer these questions right.
I'm ready, inshallah.
So last week we covered a quiz. So we basically went over the stuff we had before. We talked about what is Islam, what is Aqidah, what is necessary to know for the Muslims to know. We discussed the necessary attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And today we're going to be covering a very important topic. We're going to be discussing some of the things related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's essence. All right. So again, for those if you bear with us, we appreciate it. Because I'm looking, with this social media, you have a plethora of speakers you can listen to and teachers, educators, So I do mine for those dollar house party basement, people. It don't be a lot of people, but we be jam packed in there.
Exactly.
And them spots that everybody can't come to. That's who I go. That's who I work for. So so it would be in the best interest that if you decide to join the class to make sure that you stay on. And anybody who needs a review, I'll definitely be willing to help you out, inshallah. And next week we'll have this class on Facebook Live where we put it with our Google Meet class, so you can see because what I'm doing here with my students, we got a PowerPoint and we just reviewing the stuff on the book, inshallah. All right, so we're going to continue, Hanif. Let me share the screen real quick. Okay, so we in the book. You still had I still got your hard copy. I got to get for you.
Alhamdulillah. Okay.
All right. So we're on question 24 in the book. All right. So let's see. Okay, we're on question 24. So I want you to read question 24 in the book.
Okay. Question 24 says, two types of verses in the Quran, muhkamat, which is muhkamat, which is clear meaning.
Uh-huh.
It went away.
No, in your book. No, in the book.
Oh, in my book?
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta get it on my phone. 1 second. I'm sorry. One second, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I don't have question 24. I'm up to question 23, and that was it.
Yeah, that's in the PowerPoint. I'm talking about the actual book.
I don't have the book.
Oh, I didn't email it to you?
No, that's the only thing I got was up to question 23. I'm sorry, okay. All
right, don't worry about it. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull my book up.
Okay.
You know, I'll read the questions for the sake of our newfound people online. We got any people checking it out?
People online, yeah.
Hey, how y'all doing out there?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. All right, hold on 1 second. Okay, that file's moving slow. Give me 1 second. All right. So, all right, for the sake of the people who are joining in, I'm going to read the question so they can hear it too. All right. I don't know why my joint is moving slow today. All right. So far, we've covered the 13 necessary attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just as a review, Hanif, we said that with respect to these attributes, here's a trivia question. The blank of them are inconceivable, and the blank of them are impossible. We're talking about Allah's necessary attributes.
I think we covered with the...
Yeah, that was on the quiz.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me refresh my memory here.
Assalamu alaikum, Jules Polar, a.k.a. You there, brother? Okay. All right. Give me a second. The people on Facebook, do remember if you want to continue with this class from today, we'll catch you up to speed, but I will need your email address, and you can send it to our Facebook. You can inbox us on Facebook, and we make sure you get a copy of the book. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this, brother. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. It says, question number 24. What is the meaning of istiwa? When he, pure as he, says, Ar-Rahman is firmly in control of the throne. All right, so now we go to the PowerPoint. So we're going to cover question number 24. So before we can discuss the meaning of istiwa, we need to cover a few things, inshallah. So the first thing is that, let me just work it. Okay. When we talk about the ayahs in the Quran, they're divided in two parts. The first one, there are two types of ayats. The first one is muhkamat. Muhkamat means an ayat that has a clear meaning, and the mutashabbihat. and which ayats that have an ambiguous or vague meaning. All right, so the meaning is not as clear as a muhkamat. So muhkamat refers to those verses that are apparently and clearly comprehensible, and they comprise the bulk of the Quran. Muhkamat, those are the verses that are apparent and clearly comprehensible, and they comprise the bulk of the Quran. All right, and the mutashabbihat refers to those verses that have an allegorical or figurative meaning, or a meaning that is not clearly comprehensible, not meaning that is not understandable, but from the apparent meaning, it won't mean as you read it. All right. And so this is going to be revolving around this question number 24 in the book about the ayat in Surah Taha, ayat 5, Ar-Rahmanu al-Arsh istawa, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he made istawa over the arsh. All right. So the ayat that we have is in Quran, ayat Surah 3, verse 7. Any of you have the Quran pulled up? Inshallah, you can read that ayat.
Can you repeat the verse again?
Yeah, Surah 3, Surah Ali Imran, ayat 7. I want one of you to read that verse, inshallah.
Okay. Ali Imran. Yes.
You can read it in English.
Okay.
So this is the proof. You know, we got to give our proofs when what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talk about two types of verses: the muhkamat, clear meaning, and the mutashabbihat, ambiguous meaning. There's an ayah in the Quran that explains them.
So it says
Go ahead.
here, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. He it is who hath revealed unto you the scripture wherein are clear revelations. They are the substance of the book, and which are allegorical. But those in whose hearts is doubt, for sooth, that which is that which is allegorical, seeking dissension by seeking to explain it. None knows the explanation except Allah, and those who are of sound instruction. Okay, and those who are of sound instruction say, we believe therein. The whole is from our look, but only men of understanding really know.
Okay. All right. So in this ayat, it says that Allah, he says, he sent down to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam the book, and in it are verses that are muhkamat, and he says that these are the kitab. They are the foundation of the book. And in it are others that are mutashabbihat. So here, the kitab, meaning the mother of the book, that the bulk of the verses in the Quran make up these clear and comprehensible ayats, and they are easy to understand and to remember, as Allah mentions in another part of the Quran, that we have made the Quran easy to understand and remember. I think that's in Surah al-Qamar, if I'm not mistaken. And the mutashabbihat make up a small amount of the Quran. All right. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as for those in whose hearts is a deviation, he used the word zayg, a zayg, which means a deviation or aberration or perversion. And what this means is that they will assign a specific meaning to the mutashabbihat verses, which have a number of meanings. And all of the meanings in the mutashabbihat verses don't apply, and one specific meaning is not suitable. So remember, we're talking about with respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, when we are talking about his description, and we mentioned in our class that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is one, he is absolutely one in his that, his sifat, and his af'al. What is that sifat and af'al? This is for my students on the Google Meet and my students who are present. You guys on Facebook get a pass for now, but I hope you know this is not a game. Not here to play. All right. So come on, brothers. I ain't gonna call y'all names out because the world is watching, man. So
you said, what is that?
Yeah, we said that Allah is one. We covered this. He is one in his that, his sifat, and his af'al. What is Allah's that?
The that is self-essence.
Yes, his essence, his sifat,
his attributes and qualities.
And his af'al.
That would be his actions.
Right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is attributed with al-Wahdaniyah, which is absolute oneness, one of the necessary attributes that we covered, and that he is attributed with al-Mukhalafa lil-Hawadith, and that he is absolutely dissimilar to the creation. So this is a oneness that, you know, is so profound that we can't really imagine it. So as such, we should just leave it as it is, as it comes. All right. So the person who has the deviation or aberration or perversion, that they will try to assign a meaning to the mutashabbihat. And remember in the last slide, we said the mutashabbihat verses, they mean that they are vague or they are ambiguous. And they also mean that a verse that is mutashabbihat has a number of meanings, you know, and that all of the meanings might not apply, but you can't just specify one meaning. Is that clear?
Yes. Okay.
So when we come to those mutashabbihat verses, they have to be interpreted in the proper context. All right. So you can't just accept them on what they apparently mean, and they have to be explained in the right way. All right. And that's for the people of knowledge. Okay. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, and none knows the true interpretation except Allah, and which is ta'wil, meaning that even if we apply a meaning that is most suitable, the real meaning is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and in that case, then no one can give these attributes a specific real meaning and say that this is what it actually means. All right. So the ta'wil is only known except to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, is that clear? So as we go and we discuss this a little further, because for this one question, we got about 4 or 5 slides, and that's really going to take out the bulk of this class today, because it's going to be very important that we understand this stuff. All right. So then here we have ta'wil is one, none knows is true except interpretation of except Allah. And then in the rest of the ayah says, we believe in it. All of it is from our Lord. And that is the example of what is known as tafwidh. Tafwidh, that we're going to explain in the slide following. All right. So you should know these 2 terms, these 4 terms so far. Muhkamat, which is clear verses, comprehensible verses. You should understand mutashabbihat, or ambiguous verses or vague verses that don't have a specific meaning or unclear. The term ta'wil means a figurative interpretation, and tafwidh, which means to accept the meaning as it comes, and you relegate the meaning to Allah. What it means, you leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're going to explain these in a few slides to come. Are there any questions or anything online? Or okay. All right. So now here's an example of a muhkamat verse. So muhkamat means what again?
The muhkamat is the clear meaning.
Yeah, verses which are apparently clear.
Yeah.
Comprise the most of the Quran.
Yes. All right. So
foundation of the book.
Yes, here's an example of a muhkamat verse. And for instance, we say, and in Allah should the believers put their trust. This is in Surah Ali Imran, ayat 122. So when we talk about muhkamat verse, this means that there is no other meaning that you can derive from that. It's very clear that if you're a believer, you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, when we talk about tawakkul, it has a deeper meaning of what trust is. But in general, you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. Here's another example. It says, O Muhammad, inform my servants that it is I and I who is forgiving and merciful. This is a Surah Hijr, Surah 15, Ayah 49. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is informing the Prophet ﷺ to let the believers know that he is forgiving and merciful. All right, so that is a very clear verse. There's no anything you have to really think about. You know what forgiveness means, you know what mercy means. And Allah says he is forgiving and merciful. There's nothing to really conclude from that except that. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now let me give you an example of a mutashabbihat verse. All right, so a mutashabbihat verse means that the apparent meaning might not be as comprehensible or clear. All right, or they say it's ambiguous. All right, so here we have in Surah Qalam, Surah 68, Ayah 42, it says the day that the sins will be uncovered. So just reading that verse, what does that mean?
As a guess, it sounds like the day of Yom Kippur.
Right, you know that the day is the Yom Kippur, but what is the shin will be uncovered? Is that something that can be apparent to you?
No.
No, because it's not being it's not being it's not being explained as something specific as to who.
Right, it's non-specific, so it's a meaning that is not it is ambiguous. And then remember, in the ayah we mentioned that we believe in all of it, even the stuff that is not clearly specific. All right. So this is an example. I'm just giving you this an example. We're going to discuss these verses in a couple classes down because we have to make clarity with respect to how some people have understood specifically this verse and other verses. All right. Another example is the one we're covering today. Is the most merciful above the throne established. Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, which is a Surah Taha, Ayah 5. All right, so we know that this is a mutashabbihat verse. Why is it a mutashabbihat verse? Anybody want to take a crack at it?
Because we don't truly know which direction it's from. And it's I mean, above the throne, I mean, it's relative to Allah's time and space, and we don't really understand, you know, I guess it's not clear as far as, you know,
Yeah,
where Allah is.
yeah. Okay, we're going to get into that because that's a deep conversation. All right, so the most merciful is above the throne established. This is a mutashabbihat. The mutashabbihat means a verse that is not clear. So if it's not clear, that means you can't assign one specific meaning to it because there are a number of meanings related to it. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right. All right. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So there are two approaches concerning the mutashabbihat verses. Okay. The muhkamat, if there's clear, then there's no, you know, it's clear. Now, the mutashabbihat verses is where the explanation is, because this is where we start to see the people who have the zig, this deviation, this aberration or perversion of the ayats. And as we discuss this in a few further classes, we'll see where people have went astray with respect to this. All right. Okay, so two approaches concerning the mutashabbihat verses. The first one, as we mentioned, is the term tafwidh. We already mentioned that. Okay, so tafwidh means. Where's that echo? So tafwidh means to accept the apparent wording of the verse and relegating the meaning of it to Allah or passing it on as it came. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know where that echo came from. So tafwidh, it means to accept the apparent wording of the verse and relegating the meaning of it to Allah and passing it on as it came. So that means we accept how those with respect to mutashabbihat verses, how they're worded in the Quran, we accept them and we believe in them, but we don't delve into what they actually mean. And the true meaning is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the ayat in Surah Ali Imran says. All right. And we pass it on as it came. All right. So in the ayat, what we mentioned with the day when the shin will be uncovered, it's not a clear meaning. Whatever it means, we just leave it. You know, we just leave it. That is the safest approach with tafwidh. And then there's ta'wil. All right, ta'wil is a figurative interpretation of a verse, which means to give it a proper meaning, give a proper meaning to a verse without denying its reality. Without denying its reality. Because, you know, as you get, we're doing this stuff in the general sense, but when you get deeper into it, people will say, for instance, if you make ta'wil of a verse, that you are denying the reality, or what's a term that's called ta'til. And this is what they accuse, you know, people of Ahl Sunnah, saying that, you know, we deny some of the meanings or meanings of Allah's attributes. No, when we get into a deep, what we deny is literal meanings of these attributes, because they don't apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So we're going to be discussing this over the next few weeks. And as I mentioned in the class, for those who might not know, this is not a we're not doing this class to complete it in a time frame. This is really make sure everybody understands, because every week we'll go over a little bit that we covered, especially the week before. Some of the things that we covered up until this point, we'll continue, because to make sure that people understand what's being said here. All right. Good. You have a question?
Can you give the definition of ta'wil again?
Ta'wil is figurative interpretation, or to give a proper meaning to a verse without denying its reality. All right. Okay. Now, whenever we use these two approaches to the mutashabbihat verses, when we're talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his sifat and his af'al, the goal of tafwidh and ta'wil is tanzih. The goal of tafwidh and ta'wil is tanzih. And what is the meaning of tanzih? For our brothers on the Google Meet, or if anybody in Facebook, you can put it in the comment. And if you're wrong, the moderator is going to say wrong, like Donald Trump. Wrong. Okay, Hanif, Kareem.
Yes, tanzih is a complete transcendence.
Right. Okay, complete transcendence, or what's the other meaning that we had?
That was the ability to know what's right and wrong.
No, of tanzih.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, you said tanzih, not okay.
Yeah. That we're completely freeing Allah of any kind of similitude, or any kind of likeness, or any comparison to his creation.
Yes.
All right. So that's what tanzih is, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from any imperfections or anything similar to him. All right. So whenever these mutashabbihat verses, particularly ones that we're going to cover with respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's af'al, all right, then they go this approach of tafwidh, or is going to be the tafwidh or ta'wil. All right. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right. Okay. And now here's an example of the meaning of tafwidh that we took from Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah. And this is probably the best explanation that I came across. It says, the Imam Shafi'i said, I believe in what has come from Allah as it was intended by Allah, and I believe in what has come from the Messenger of Allah as it was intended by the Messenger of Allah. I don't know why this thing is echoing. Why is this thing echoing? Okay. All right, so did you see that meaning?
Yes.
All right, why is this thing echoing? All right, so this is the meaning of tafwidh. I believe what has come from Allah as it was intended by Allah, and I believe in what has come from the Messenger of Allah as it was intended by the Messenger of Allah. So in other words, he did not delve into those meanings when it came to these mutashabbihat verses, especially the one that we're talking about, al-Rahman al-Arsh istiwa. So a better way to understand it is when we come to these verses, we accept them as they came, full stop. So whatever Allah means by istiwa al-Arsh, we leave it alone. Because it's a mutashabbihat verse, it means it has a number of meanings, and we just can't apply one specific meaning. And as well, all of the meanings don't apply. So as such, you leave it, because this, if you delve into it, this is where problems occur and misunderstandings and distortions. You know, so it's, you know, so when we come to these verses, al-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, full stop. What it means, don't even go into it. You know, it's definitely something profound. It's definitely something beyond our comprehension. And because of that, just leave it. And just know, be satisfied that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unlike anything. So when we have these descriptions about his af'al, his actions, it's not nothing that we can concede. And this is why it's important to know those necessary attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then you relate them to all of his that, his sifat, and his af'al. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay, here's another example of ta'wil. The story of Prophet Yusuf. Remember the story of Prophet Yusuf? I mean, there's a lot of jewels. You can't just say one particular story. There's numerous jewels in there. But Prophet Yusuf, you remember at the beginning of the surah, he told his father, he said, I had a dream of 11 stars or planets and the sun and the moon prostrating to me. Now, if we were to accept that on the apparent meaning of what he said, what would that mean? No, on the apparent meaning, what would it mean? If you told me you had a dream, you saw 11 what is stars, sun and the moon prostrating to you. In my mind, I'm going to think of stars, the sun and moon prostrating to you, right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's the apparent meaning, because we know what sun, moon, stars are, right? But in the story of Prophet Yusuf, is that what it meant?
No.
I don't think so.
No, you read the story of Prophet Yusuf, right?
Yeah, but
What happened at the end?
Alhamdulillah, he was able to they found out that his brothers, alhamdulillah, they were plotting against him, and wind up him becoming like the king, and him showing mercy to them, alhamdulillah.
Right. And then what at the end, what happened? His family came together, right? His brother and his mother and his father. That was the interpretation of the dream that he had. That was ta'wil. All right, everybody follow me on that one?
Yes.
All right, so the apparent meaning what he said, it didn't mean the same thing. And in the surah, he said, this is the ta'wil of the dream that I had earlier after it happened. So the what he saw in his dream was his family coming together, him honoring his parents. That was the meaning of him, the sun and the moon and those the stars prostrating to him. Or was it planets? What was it?
I believe it was stars, but I think the stars was interpreted as his brothers.
Okay.
I could be
It
wrong.
was stars. So that was the interpretation. So it wasn't actual stars in the sun and moon prostrated to him. It was, his brothers and sisters. I mean, his brothers and his mother and father, right, coming together and bringing his family back together after all those trials. So it was ta'wil is a meaning other than what the apparent meaning was seen. All right. Are we clear on that one?
Yes, sir.
Topic questions.
We got non-topic questions?
Yeah, you can address it later.
All right, we will. Okay, so now the next example of ta'wil. We know the companion Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhu. All right. His name, he was known as the interpreter of the Quran. He was known as Turjamul Quran. He was known as the interpreter of the Quran. And here we have the hadith that when he was a little boy, the Prophet ﷺ had grabbed him and hugged him, and he said, "Oh Allah, teach him the book and make him knowledgeable in religion. And in another narration, it says to teach him the interpretation of the book. All right, and everybody know who Ibn Abbas was, right?
Yes.
All right, anybody remember one particular story? It was related to the Ibn Abbas and the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, there was many, but there was one when he grabbed him as a little boy and made this dua for him. There's another story related to this one. So for those who on Facebook who don't know, when you get research questions, I ask you stuff. The format is either you're going to be responsible for what we presented in the class, either on the board or PowerPoint, or something I said that's not in either, and you might have to do a research. So there's a particular story that I'm looking for with Ibn Abbas when he was a little boy, and there was something he specifically used to do with the Prophet ﷺ. All right, that's going to be a research question for those. All right, so Ibn Abbas, so the Prophet ﷺ made dua that Ibn Abbas would be able to interpret the Quran or make ta'wil. So that means he would have the ability to interpret the verses that didn't have a clear meaning, the mutashabbihat verses. All right, is that clear?
Yes.
All right, so question 24 is continued. All right, so now the ayah that we're discussing is in Surah Taha, ayah 5. And it says, Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa. What is the meaning of istawa? What is the meaning of istawa? My Google Meet, y'all got the PowerPoint, so
yeah. That's why I didn't answer.
let me get the other participating audience the chance. Anybody say? Anybody know the meaning of istiwa? First of all, with this ayah, is it muhkamat or mutashabbihat? This verse that we're talking about in Surah Taha, ayah 5, is it a muhkamat, a clear verse, or mutashabbihat, or ambiguous verse? Huh? Which one? You looking it up on your phone, bro?
I know it's a mutashabbihat because it's like metaphorical, allegorical. Yes,
it's not something that's clear in meaning. I thought you was over there cheating, bro. I was like, that ain't cheating. All right, so the meaning of istiwa has multiple meanings. Some of them, it means to subjugate, to preserve, to maintain, to sit, to settle, to stabilize, height, exaltation, and elevation. Now, remember when we said the two approaches to mutashabbihat verses? We just talked about it. What are the two approaches that we said concerning the mutashabbihat verses? There are two approaches.
Tafwidh.
Yeah, tafwidh. And what is tafwidh? What does it mean?
It means like to accept the apparent like wording of the verse to Allah, relegating or
consigning.
Meeting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
All right, so with this verse, with istawa, in this verse, al-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, the word istawa has all of these meanings that are applicable to it. But with respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can't, all of these meanings don't apply. And then with the mutashabbihat verses, it's already known just by the makeup of the verse that the literal meaning doesn't apply because it already means something that it's not apparent. So the literal meaning is always the apparent meaning. You know, is that true in language?
The literal meaning is always the apparent meaning?
Yes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Yes, yeah. Right. You know, that there's, you know, like if I say, yeah, my hand is hurting, you know I'm talking about my hand. Right. If I say, give me a hand with this, what am I saying?
You're saying that I need help.
Right.
Right.
I'm not saying give me, don't cut off your actual hand and give it to me. Right? No, that's serious, because once we discuss this even more, you're going to understand why these ayahs are mutashabbihat and why the best recourse is to either leave them or give them a interpretation that is the most suitable meaning. And where you see, because we're going to discuss that in detail in a couple of weeks, where people have went astray in this, and when they're going astray, they have accused other people going astray. Because you'll see in some of these places that they say that Allah's, all of his attributes are literal. And you're reading some of these, some of these glossy books with these nice covers and all this, that we believe that all of Allah's attributes are literal. The first thing we have to understand is when the ayats, they are already divided into two categories, muhkamat and mutashabbihat. And all of Allah's attributes are not muhkamat. And some of these ayats are in the mutashabbihat. Remember, the mutashabbihat verses are minimum. It's not the muhkamat make up the mother of the book, and the mutashabbihat are not as many. So, and some of those things that are attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with respect to his af'al are in those mutashabbihat verses. So they can't be literal. Why can't they be literal? Because mutashabbihat verses have what?
Ambiguous.
They have a multitude of meanings. Yes. Yeah, it's an ambiguous meaning that has a non-specific meaning. So if you give something a literal meaning, that means you are giving it a specific meaning. Is that clear?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So here we have some of the meanings. There are about 15 meanings of the word istiwa. And here we said a couple. It means to subjugate, to preserve, to maintain, to sit, to settle, to stabilize. All right. Now, you've all heard this phrase that when they talk about istiwa, you've seen this translation. Allah is above his throne in a manner that befits his majesty. Have you seen that?
Seen it, heard it.
Yeah, you've seen it, heard it. Okay. All right. So now when we talk about istiwa, and if you say that Allah is above his throne, what does that actually mean? Now we're talking about Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're talking about Allah, he is attributed with attributes that are befitting to him, and knowing that he is unlike anything that the mind can conceive. All right. So if we say when Allah is above his throne in a manner that befits his majesty, what does that actually mean?
To me, it would mean he's above all things.
Sometimes you would think,
Okay.
You would look at something that we observe on earth and think that it's somewhat similar to like maybe how he might be above his throne. But that doesn't apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Doesn't.
Because all his attributes and his likeness is unknown to us, inconceivable to us. So,
Right. I don't know if y'all heard that, but that was a good explanation.
Yeah, well,
You're saying that many times where people go wrong is that when they think about this thing of above and they relate it to istiwa, then they make the mistake of relating to created things. So this is why the scholars have said these attributes, the descriptions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as far as like istiwa and yad and ayn, that first of all you shouldn't translate them. All right, you shouldn't translate them. So we should say istawa ala arsh instead of saying Allah is above the throne. And inshallah we get. So when we say Allah is above the throne in a manner that besuits his majesty, in this statement was one of the things that's problematic about it is that it gives an indication that there is a how that Allah is above his throne. And how doesn't apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now we go back to tafwidh. When we say al-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, if we want to really be safe and follow the Salaf, we leave it at that. We leave it at that. Don't even ask about it. Don't even ask about it. What it means is something that's beyond our pay grade, way beyond our pay grade. All right. That's the safest way. And remember the ayat and Surah Ali Imran, we believe in it. All of it is from our Lord. And remember the statement of Imam Shafi. He said, I believe in what Allah revealed according to what Allah meant by it, and what the Prophet ﷺ has said according to what he meant by it. Meaning I don't need an explanation. I don't need an explanation. All right. So Allah is above his throne in matter that befits his majesty. Now, if you look up above in the English dictionary, here's some of the meanings in it. There's about 20-something meanings for above. It says above means in or at a higher place, overhead or upstairs in the sky, higher in rank, authority or power, in or above heaven, etc., etc. Now, when you say Allah is above his throne, which of one of those verses apply? Which one of those meanings apply?
Probably the higher in rank or authority or power.
Yes, that is a possible meaning for it. But Ahl Sunnah, even the meaning that they make ta'wil of, remember the ayah says, and the only true meaning is known to Allah. The true meaning is known to Allah. So we Ahl Sunnah will make ta'wil when it's necessary. You know what I mean? Just so that the wrong interpretation is not understood. And the wrong interpretation is the literal one. Because you have heard people say that Allah is above his throne and all of his attributes are literal. So they're saying that he's literally above the throne. And if they say he's literally above the throne, they're saying that he's in a location and he's in a direction.
Also, if I would say something, even to look at some of those meanings in the dictionary, English-wise, and translate them or interpret them as, using the English meaning or what we understand to be above, right? How would you know if that's the accurate meaning if it wasn't specifically stated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or even by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his prophet? So it's like we're trying to guess at what it is, and it's best to just leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Tafwidh, just leave it. So this is you just segue into our next part. It says we put here in the PowerPoint that tafwidh is the safest approach. And tafwidh what was done by the majority of the Salaf. All right, now something that we should understand here is that you will hear people say when they say these literal meanings for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but if you look at the Sahaba, they didn't discuss these things. When they read the ayat al-Rahman al-Arsh istiwa, that was it. That was it. You don't find any discussions about in detail about it. And then the later generations, which is known as al-Khalaf, they used to do ta'wil, all right? And they did ta'wil when it was necessary so that literal meanings wasn't understood. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right, so we don't understand that istawa ala arsh, meaning that Allah is above the throne or literally above the throne in the manner and suits his majesty, because what that gives an indication is, because now we're going to bring some proofs of some people who are considered notable scholars with some saying that that istawa ala arsh means Allah is sitting on the throne, or that Allah is settled on the throne. Now, is that applicable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
That's still giving him a location.
It's giving him a location, and it's giving him movement, and it's giving him contingency, meaning that he is affected by something that he created. You understand? I didn't put it here, but this is Imam Abu Hanifa. He said, if you ask if you say that Allah is above the throne, then when they say where's Allah, then you have to, because this is a big question, where's Allah? And I don't know if they still do it now, but years ago they used to test, it was what they call that, a litmus test, to see if you was a real believer. Where's Allah? So Imam Abu Hanifa, he said that if you ask where's Allah, then you have to ask where he was before he created the throne. So if he's above the throne in the literal sense that people understand it, then where was he before he created the throne? Because, here's a trivia question. Which creation was first?
Which creation was first?
Yes.
The soul of Rasulullah.
No. The soul of Rasulullah. Yeah, that's legit. But but we're saying this You know, when we understand normally when we say Allah created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, right? What's the thing that we one of the reports that what Allah created first?
The pen.
The pen or the throne? There's difference of opinion about it, right? But there's a hadith that says, well, Allah created the pen first and he commanded the pen to write and then put everything in the eternal decree, right?
Mm.
So if there's a difference about the pen and the throne be one created first. So let's just say we roll with the pen being created first, right? And the throne created after. Where was Allah then?
Mm.
That means that this is what tafwidh is important. So you don't delve into these things and you don't assign a how or where to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because it doesn't apply. Because where and how are locations and modalities. And these don't apply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, so this is why tafwidh is the safest approach. You accept the wording. We believe in it because these words are in the Quran. Istiwa al-arsh is the number of ayats in the Quran. We accept it as it is. And then when later generations started to understand these things to be literal, then this is when the Khalaf or the latter generations of scholars, they will make ta'wil. All right. Is that clear? Is there any questions on that?
No, that was pretty clear.
Okay. So we're going to be discussing this more because this is very important. All right. So then the last, the one we're going to cover today is that we're going to discuss Imam Malik, rahimahullah, when he talked about istiwa. All right, so everybody know who Imam Malik was, right?
Yes.
Rahimahullah. Imam Malik was one of the 4 imams of the ummah. Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi. We mentioned all 3 of these today, and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. May Allah have mercy on all of them. So here we have Imam Malik when he was talking about istiwa. There was a narration that a man had came to him. He said, what is he told him about istiwa, and he said, how did Allah make istiwa on the throne? So this man was asking about a how. Now, what do we understand about a how nowadays for Allah?
The manner in which he did it?
There is no how for Allah.
Right.
There's no how. All right. Bilad Kaif. Right. So then when Imam Malik answered this, when he was asked this question, how did Allah make istiwa on the throne? So it says that Imam Malik, he inclined his head and he was silent. And it said he started sweating profusely. Like he said, like the sweat of a fever. And so he took some time before he answered this question. Now you put this in context. What year did Imam Malik pass away? That's a trivia question. You have to find out. Any takers online?
I know we better have.
I got the question on here. I mean the answer. But Imam Malik, before I ain't gonna give you the answer, I'm just say that he came sometime after the Salaf, all right? Because you know, we're Salafis, right? We're Salafis in the sense that we follow Salaf Salih, all right, and not in the sense of Salafiyah. Let's make that clear. There's a world of night and day, you know. So Imam Malik is one of the imams of the Salaf for sure.
We got 795 AD, 179.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So somebody relieved you of the trivia question, but you still got to remember it. All right. So someone mentioned that Imam Malik died 179 after the Hijrah. So so when was the time? So that's what? How many? That's like a century, right? A century or so after the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. All right. Now before this time of Imam Malik, nobody ever asked this question. So what does that mean? If Imam Malik died 179 after the Hijrah, what year did the Prophet ﷺ pass away? Hijri years. Yeah, 632 of the current era, but the Hijri years. So he made the Hijra from Mecca to Medina. How long did he stay in Medina before he passed? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. All right, where y'all at? Now this is Sirah. This ain't even. I thought y'all said y'all love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Y'all eerily quiet on here. What's up, Hanif? What's up, man?
I'm present.
Okay. What year did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam pass away? What Hijri year?
$632, right?
The Hijri year. That's the current era.
Oh.
Somebody said 11 AH. I'll go with the 10 after Hijra.
10.
Yeah. So, and based since lunar calendars, it can fluctuate. I'll give them a star, a happy face on the paper. So we talking about 10 years after the Hijra of the Prophet, 10, 11 years, some say 9, right? And Imam Malik died 179 years after the Hijra. So how many? That's a whole 169 years before somebody asked this question about istiwa. So the point I was getting at is that the Sahabas, they accepted it as it came, and whatever it meant, they left to Allah, which is the meaning of what? What word describes that meaning we just said?
To leave it as it is.
Yeah, to accept it as it came, leave it as it is, and leave the meaning to Allah. What's the word we talked about today?
Tafwidh.
Tafwidh. Yeah, good. All right. So now this time comes during the time of Imam Malik. A man comes and he asks, how was istiwa? How did Allah make istiwa? So Imam Malik was like, man, the heat is on. Like, let me think about this because this is something new. Right? So he said the istiwa is not unknown, that it is ghayru majhul. It is not unknown because it's mentioned in the Quran. He said the modality of it is inconceivable in the mind, but belief in it is obligatory, and action about it is a bid'ah. And then he said, they told the man, he said, you are an innovator. And he gave orders for the man to be removed from the masjid. So this is the best explanation when we talk about understanding this about the istiwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So it's a lot of jewels in here. We'll probably review it next week. But he basically explained what tafwidh is. We accept the wording as it came because it's mentioned numerous times in the Quran. We accept it as it came, the wording, what it means, we leave to Allah, and we don't delve into it. And that is the safest approach. And then when improper meaning is understood, which a literal interpretation of istiwa, or when people will translate, they say Allah is above his throne, and they believe that all of Allah's attributes are literal, all of the same, then that has to be refuted. That understanding cannot be promoted. All right. And this is something that subhanAllah, we're seeing in our times really promoted. They're saying Allah is above the throne. And I think a lot of people don't even understand what they're doing. This stuff has never really been explained to them. So we believe in Allah istiwa. There is no how to it. And whatever it means, we leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because all of these meanings that we mentioned in the previous slide, subjugate, to settle, to sit, to exaltedness, elevatedness, all of those meanings can apply. And you just can't make one of them meaning specific for Allah. And because of that complexity that comes with mutashabbihat verses, you just leave it. You just leave it, and it's easier to do that. You know, and it has some grand meaning, but that's not for us to know, because what did we mention previously? One of the things that we mentioned, a statement from Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anh, and this kind of sums it up.
He said, your ability to comprehend Allah is your comprehension of Him.
Yes, your inability to comprehend Allah is your comprehension of Him. Yeah, go ahead. What's the question?
No, actually, just a question.
Okay. Yeah. So your inability to comprehend Allah is your comprehension of it. And another statement that we mentioned by one of the imams of the Salaf is, do not try to understand the Allah's that. Do not try to understand His essence. It's not for us to know. It's not for us to know. You know, we live in a Western society. You know, you got to have all of this knowledge. You have to know everything. That's not how we do it in Islam. We don't have to know everything. You know, because all knowledge, complete knowledge, is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's one of His necessary attributes, that He's attributed with ilm, right? He has knowledge at every time and every place before it happens, and you know how it happens. All of that is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So, is there any questions on what we talked about today about tafwidh, ta'wil, istiwa, muhkamat, and mutashabbihat?
No.
All right. Is there any questions online from anybody?
No.
Okay. All right. So the people who are online, if you want to continue with the class, I'll send you the book and the PowerPoint presentation. And each week, we add to the PowerPoint. So it's a recurring class, and we cover the questions in the book. All right. So
put up the link. You just want to keep it online, or do you have a link you want me to send or anything like that?
for the class,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
So
it.
actually, we'll have the PowerPoint up next week.
Okay. Yeah, what was I going to say? All right, so the terms that we want to be reminded of today is that we discussed muhkamat. You need to know what muhkamat is. You need to know what mutashabbihat is. You need to know what tafwidh is, what ta'wil is, and the meaning of istiwa, and the understanding of istiwa. All right, so we'll review it some more next week, inshallah ta'ala, and then we'll continue, because there's a few more mutashabbihat verses related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we got to discuss. So this is question number 24. How many slides is it? I had a couple slides. Let's see, stop sharing. All right, how many? We had a couple slides for it. Hey, Kareem, you there, brother? You good? You good, bro?
Yeah.
Okay. Look like you was on that.
Mute.
Look like you was on that lean, man. Okay, so there aren't any questions, inshallah. We'll conclude there. I'll send you brothers the updated with the added slides for the PowerPoint through email, and then we'll continue next week.
Inshallah.
All right. So there's no question. We're in Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Al-Fatiha.
Ameen.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Salam
salam.
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mutashabbihat.